gorgeous faces. It's so good to see you all again today. Hello, hello. I'll give you all a chance to get into the room. Okay, now, as much as you're probably hoping that I will be extra lenient and the rules will be different and we'll get a pepper guy with, how would you prefer we ask you for jobs? And how often do you want an email? And are you sure you don't want newsletters? Nope, not allowed to ask them. Anything you can find on Google, barred. Quirky questions, the quirkier the better. Remember the rules. Please type question before your question and we will filter them through, and I promise I will get to, I know, but your newsletter, Jennifer, sorry, tough luck. We might have to have them back for a repeat. Nothing boring on this call. This is us. We've all had a lovely long dinner and we're sitting down for our after dinner drinks and we're delving into the good stuff. And I'm really spoiled because Guy is an expat, and I heard on the speakeasy call he did with Rich, my favorite subject, cider and black was my drink when I moved over here. I thought I was so cool. And I was a barmaid in Jersey in the Channel Islands. I was like hot stuff, I was sure. So Guy has done everything in the world, basically. His CV is a tiny bit intimidating. And I want to delve into all of that, but first, I really want to know about 10-year-old Guy Oldfield. What was he thinking? What was he dreaming? What was he planning at 10 years old? Did he imagine this?
10-year-old, that is a fantastic question. Hello, everybody. What a way to start. 10-year-old Guy Oldfield. I was a bookish lad. I liked a book. My mother was a librarian, and then some of you may know became an audiobook librarian.
And you were in Bath? Were you in Bath at the time?
I was in the south. I lived in the southwest.
Okay.
I lived between the southwest and I also lived in North London as well. My mother lived in the southwest of England. Yeah, I was a kid who I grew up in in a kind of small town, kind of quasi-rural, a bit country, quirky kind of household. 2 older sisters. I was the argumentative kid brother in a household which I don't know. My mom, I think my mom. I think we were a house that read and liked to argue about what we read.
So like debates at dinner time and all that.
Debates at dinner, they're never basically radio. BBC Radio 4, for those who don't know, which is a speech radio station in the UK. It's the absolute gold standard of speech radio production, arguably in the world. It's worth listening to for everything, from news and current affairs to radio drama. It was just on all the time, and so there was always debates about that.
So were you thinking future, or were you like just so much in the moment, you were just living the life right then? Or were you thinking, oh, when I grow up, this is what I want to do?
Okay, please forgive me for what I'm about to say, because my dad likes to remind me occasionally. My dad is a very, very old guy now. He's like, I never forget, you used to remind us repeatedly that it was your intention to be Prime Minister of England. It's like, Dad, please.
Actually, that would have been really nice.
Let's not lower the tone and talk about politics. But no, that's the kind of probably slightly embarrassing, precocious 10-year-old that I was. But also, we were a house, and we remain a household, albeit through the mediums of FaceTime and WhatsApp, of constantly debating things, lots of kind of cultural in-jokes between us. It was just, I grew up in a very, as I said, a house which was full of books, always a lot of spoken word, and a lot of kind of funny debating. We were not a house where that classic British phrase, children are seen, Victorian phrase, children should be seen and not heard. Yeah. We were encouraged to speak our minds.
I love that. I love that. So kind of like, it sounds like you were treated mostly like an adult when you were a child, which is
absolutely, absolutely. And I also, my parents were themselves immigrants to the UK, so they were making their own way in British society. So they're like, look, life is going to be life is navigation. You got to learn to navigate, and you might as well start young. And the best way is to, if you want to stand on your own feet, is learn to argue, argue for your own case.
So they were because my father was an immigrant from Italy, and I always feel that was a gift given to me because I grew up with another world as well. I mean, we went back all the time as well, but
yeah, absolutely. So my father's of Irish heritage, my mother's a New Zealander, and you know, both countries where more people leave than stay. So, you know, where can you not find an Irish bar? My wife travels my wife travels regularly in West Africa and has found Irish bars in kind of small towns in like Western Nigeria.
oh, I love that.
What? There's an Irish bar here? Like, what's going on? This is insane. So, you know, yeah, when you got the kind of immigrant, you know, mentality and traveler mentality, yeah, very much encouraged to go and explore the world, which is, I don't know, one of the reasons why I suppose I've had the career I've had, and I suppose how I eventually ended up in New York doing this.
So all of these things give you this inbred confidence. You have to have had a certain level of confidence that a lot of people don't have if you're treated that way when you grow up. So the world is a place that respects you and believes in you and everything. So nobody's without challenges. So what have you had to confront or change in yourself, like throughout your life? You see what I'm saying?
No, I do. No, absolutely. I'm trying to bring it back. I mean, bring it back to my immediate experience of, you know, it's an interesting time to live in America. I'll say that. That's an understatement.
That's why I live over here.
Yeah, and yeah, I love this country. I love this country. You know, I really do.
I love America as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
yeah. But I suppose in the last few years, having to learn the kind of subtleties of like American culture, like the different communication styles, and New York has its own way. I think it's a little over exaggerated sometimes, like what New York media culture is like, but you have to learn a certain way. There's a certain kind of politics to it. I suppose in terms of other adjustments, other sort of life lessons, I'm sure I've told the story before, but I never forget the first day when I went to work for the BBC. I read the in-house BBC newspaper at the time, which was a printed newspaper. How funny that literally it had their own newspaper. And there was an interview with an incredible correspondent. He's still, Jeremy Bowen, he's still active in the BBC, very, very senior correspondent now. And asked a standard question, how do you get ahead in the BBC? And the answer was, no one's opening the door for you. And I just apply that to everything in life.
That's
the truth
life.
is no one's going to open the door for you.
Yeah,
it's not. And so, fine, I may come over as being sort of confident and chatty and whatever, but I genuinely sincerely say this. I've got there through just keep opening the door, ask questions, be as we Brits would say, be a bit of a pain in the ass. Just like keep turning up. There's a great quote. Is it Uma Thurman? Uma Thurman said, someone asked her, like, how did you get cast for this film? And it's the same, a little more controversial around this name now, but I think Uma took it from Woody Allen, which is just keep turning up. Just keep turning up and it'll happen for you. So just keep turning up. So perseverance, the way it was politely described to me by a colleague in publishing. This is a classic kind of publishing comment. You're very tenacious. You're very tenacious. Thank you.
But that's what Les, you know, Les Brown, he's like a speaker. He's a famous, he did that with his first job. He just kept showing up. Like, sir, do you need me? No, I told you it. Why do you keep coming back? Well, I just know someday you're going to need me. I think he'd like, literally the guy hired him to get him to shut up. And so, you know what I mean? It's
so I encourage, actors, I know you know this. You've got to keep turning up. You got to keep turning up. It will happen. Got to keep turning up.
But to go straight to the good stuff, and also, I should mention this, guys, in case some people weren't on the call at the very beginning. I'm going to send Guy the chat in the end. So although I am going to keep him talking the whole time, and it is rules as normal, put question. If there's anything you'd like to say to Guy, he will receive the chat after the call, because there are a lot of people on the call that want to say hi and everything. So I have a very firm idea about this because, and I said I wouldn't talk about how to reach out to publishers, but this is more nuanced. when you start, you don't know what you don't know, and you try to get all the best advice, and you try to follow the rules, and you send, and then you give up. You think you're doing it wrong, or a lot of people give up. They think they're doing it wrong. I in my career have gone from sending the really short, only 5 lines official formal email. Then I go the chattier one. That I've done everything. I've done it the wrong way. I've done it the right way. But you got to keep doing it, because I've been trying to tell people it's got to be like an admin task. Of course, it's got to be like authentic. But if every time you send an email to a publisher, am I right? And then you sit back and think, I'm not worth anything as a narrator if they don't get back to me, you might as well just end it. This is something we discuss at all of our, community like get-togethers and panels.
Yeah, I think the reality is there is no one right way.
Yeah,
I mean, I think again, I try my best to share. I mean, I don't, as I'm sure, as I know you know, and others in this call know, I don't come from a publishing background.
Yeah,
I come from a television and broadcast background, and it took me a while to understand the kind of cycles of publishing. Publishing, and I use this phrase a lot, publishing is a slow turning wheel. Okay, it just doesn't, and that's on all sides, hardcover, so print, and also in audio as well. The thing I think, a nuance I think, is to know that at the beginning of the calendar year, at the end of April and early May, and in early September, there's probably no use trying to pitch yourself to a publishing company, because they're in launch phase.
That's interesting.
There are 3 seasons a year. Okay, so there's fall, winter, and spring, summer combined together. And at those times, beginning of the calendar year, so end of the year, so end of December through to early January, end of April into early May, and then probably end of August into early September, they are dead times in terms of because all publishing houses are desperately trying to get all of their business organized. There's these times in the kind of the publishing calendar where those periods where that's extremely busy. So you're kind of, I hope this is practical, serviceable advice.
It is.
Your target months for contacting audiobook publishing houses is going to be March, July, October.
See, I love this.
Yeah,
do you know why I love that? That is the kind. I can't. Oh, who am I? Oh, Tamara from Podium. I'm not going to lie. Every once in a while, I fall into the trap. It's not a trap, but the thing that we all do of, I'm going to figure out the secret, and I'm going to do everything right. And I've got the spreadsheets, and this person likes this, and this person likes that, and this person likes this. And I was given advice when I first started to send like a follow-up letter a few days after you send the first email. And so, of course, being the good new narrator, I did that. And I think I specifically checked as I was listening to the thing on APAC, where Tamara said, oh my God, I've even had some narrators do this. Not a good first impression. And as she's saying that, I'm looking at my emails, reading the one I'd sent, exactly being that narrator. You can't, in my opinion, I'm starting to get the feeling that it's like accents and marking up your script. You have to learn the months that are the best months. Learn the loose, general, good practice. Yeah. Learn your good technique and your booth and how to do a dialect, and then forget it and get in the booth and do the job. Because if you're sending a letter to a publisher, trying to memorize all the best ways to make them think you're wonderful, it's not an authentic letter, and they're already bombarded with 1 million letters. Am I right? Yeah. You got to be yourself.
Yeah, and authenticity. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a much broader kind of cultural conversation about authenticity, and in terms of what sort of like practical, and when you get a lot of pitch emails, you begin to realize there's a lot of copying and pasting going on, and when you're in a busy day, it's like, okay, thanks for copying and pasting that email to me. I appreciate that.
Did that too.
Yeah. So you might want to, here's a tip. Again, like if you're in a situation of like, how can I sort of get over the line? How can I kind of like get that breakthrough? Is you just got to go back to a couple of things. You've got to look at your own strengths and like where you think you can definitely deliver a project for a publisher, and then do the work to find the producer or the publishing house that is working on projects that you are interested in.
Yeah.
So if you're really into a particular genre, I mean, again, it depends how many credits you want to use on whichever audiobook distribution platform you're using. But if you're prepared to do some research, is to go and find out who produces what, and you're going to notice patterns. So, and we do a lot of this. So we have a narrator database here, which we work on constantly iterating, and it's clever. It's very clever, and we observe patterns in what you're narrating. So we see where what you're getting booked for, where your strengths are, and so it works both ways. So see who's working on what. You're going to notice there's definitely producers out there who specialize in certain genres, and if you feel that's a genre that you have got something to offer in, I listen to this. I've got a voice for this type of genre, and you might just get that little memory, that little neuron is kind of connected. Like, oh yeah, I think I'll give them a go. Or at least I'll audition them. And get a chance. And that's one tactic. Another tactic, as opposed to doing the pitchy, man. I can't imagine how frustrating it is when you're not getting any kind of breakthrough moment. I am not averse to actors looking far ahead into what Macmillan is publishing and saying, I've seen you publishing this. I'd love to be considered. And we have plenty of those. We have quite a bit of that now. And sometimes it's like, we would have loved to have considered you, but we're publishing that next month. We cast that 6 months ago. It's got to be far enough. Macmillan, you've got to look 6 to 8 months ahead in terms of the publication date. And there are some things we don't have the audiobook rights to. So it's like, I'm sorry, we don't have it. But tenacity, I'm not going to turn anybody down who's tenacious. So,
But then don't you agree that it goes, and I keep pushing myself back to this because it is so easy to start looking extrinsically, to look for extrinsic validation, right? So whereas I've started realizing that like I'm spending a lot of time. First you have to know what you love. You have to know what you love. Like, what books, when they offer you, do you really getting excited and nervous about, and you're like not sure, it's a big deal to you. Those are maybe a genre you should be pushing, because all this ticking boxes and trying to get with such and such and such and such, you're right. Not many people are looking for who's doing the stuff I actually love. How am I managing my career as an artist? You said something in Rich's call that made me instantly just think, I love this guy. You said you like making things. And that's all of us at our core, I think, get into this because we love making something amazing. And I think in our effort because it always takes longer and requires more patience than you think it's going to require. So then you feel like you're not doing well. So then you start managing your career and you forget to just keep going back to making. Does that sound naive at the end of the day? Because it all comes from that.
No, it's not. And I think how that parlays into an actor who's getting booked is that there's definitely, and producers talk about this amongst themselves and between houses, of like, they're great to work with. They're a hard worker, or like they're really committed. Not just because they hit the deadline, their files were nice and clean, they were just organized, but just like, you can just tell they took it seriously. I forget, someone was talking to me, who were they referring to, a narrator? They said the reason I love that narrator is that it doesn't matter the book that they're cast for. They always give the best. They always give the best. I have spoken to other narrators. That's funny. That's something I wanted to raise today. I was thinking about it on my way to work this morning. It's all very easy. We live in a world which is easy to complain about things. But I've occasionally had, narrators say to me, "Oh, I couldn't narrate that," or "I'm narrating this piece of crap," or I'm just like, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, they're thinking about their business. That's the difference between a businessman and an artist.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
genuinely believe that. And I think
yeah,
people need to get back to being artists. That's the point.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think in the art of narration, that's the great thing about this growing, not just the growing market, but the fact that audiobooks are increasingly culturally significant, that people are understanding it as an art form. It's a form of performance, and you learn what's good and bad. You learn what's good and bad. I mean, at the moment, it's a chat. There's a lot of product out there, and I think audiences are. You think actors, it's challenging. I think it's challenging for the audiences. Like, what's good and what's bad. So,
but if they keep going back to what they're good, okay, I'm trying to be like one of those people. Take time off, breathe, all that stuff. Take an occasional walk. So I made myself take 2 days off, and I really didn't like it. So instead, I did some public domain books, very, very short ones, which made me feel accomplished because I got to do the covers, which were fun. And I'm trying to do marketing because I admire some people like, I can't remember the name, Natalie Naudus. She's amazing. She does all this marketing but I'm not comfortable live narrating. I'm not like raw girl. I'm not good with that. So I do videos, and I was posting them. And lately I've had a lot of friends go, oh, you've got a lot of books. You're getting a lot of books lately. And I'm like, no, they're public domain books. I created, because actors have to create work, don't they? They have to create their own work because they don't have like access to as many auditions as we have. We should always be creating something. You can create your own work. You don't have to wait and bemoan lack of opportunities. Do a public, I love my public domain books. I keep checking Audible to look at my brilliant cover again. Might not look great on my portfolio. One of them was like 15 minutes long. So no, but I love them. You know,
I think that's something that we look for as well when we're looking at, and it's a comment that comes up because the way that our narrator database looks at it, and you don't have to do that much sleuthing to figure it out. We look at how active actors are. What are they last book on? Oh, really? Oh, didn't they book for a couple of years? What's going on there? Now, there could be myriad of reasons why someone isn't booking. They might have another job. And, hasn't the world been distracted by something recently for the last couple of years that's got in the way of everything? So, I think everybody should be forgiven for being distracted recently. But it's a thing. It's a thing. And I get it. And living in New York, you're surrounded by people, actors. Actors are everywhere. And I say this, and this does not sound disrespectful. The reality is the resting state of actors is unemployment. Basically, it's just like, you got to keep hustling. And I think it's a good thing that's recognized. Busyness is definitely recognized as like, oh, good.
Yeah, because if you want to narrate. If a writer can't sit and go, oh, I'm not employed, they still have to get up and sit down. And a lot of narrators are writing now amazing things. Travis Baldry and J.S. Arquin, they're writing their own stuff. It's, if it's something. What do you love?
Absolutely.
What do you love?
What do
you love about your job? What do you love about your job?
What do I love about my job? The sheer variety of it.
Yeah.
The fact that one day I'm doing a book about a non-fiction book about a CIA hitman who had multiple identities and multiple loyalties, and the kind of almost like James Bond-esque. And then following day, it's listening to the sweetest, softest tones of a Highland romance. It's just like, this is ridiculous. Like, wow, the love, the high. It's like, wow, this is like so variety. Just working with huge numbers of there's so many different types of actors and experiences, and I think because audiobook narration is such a subtle skill, seeing how people can bring their life experience to it, and those who master it. The big thing for me at the moment is, I suppose a note for me, and this is like a personal preference at the moment, something I'm interested in, is sort of natural voice narrations. Like, what is the quality? Like, there's definitely, and I hear this in a lot of auditions, like, some people I find have had the character, and I mean in the abstract sense, sort of trained out of them. Like, where's the person? where's the storyteller?
The positron, Ryan calls it bolts in or bolts out. You're either bolts in and you're doing it like this, or you're bolts out and you're letting it shine.
Yeah, I think a really great example of a narration, which is absolutely, because it's done incredibly well for us, is Leanne Moriarty's Apples Never Fall, narrated by Caroline Lee. It's well worth a listen.
Okay.
So what is it about the quality of that audiobook? Like, well, it's a natural voice delivery. It's a Leanne Moriarty, so it's going to be a sort of family saga, thriller, murder twist. Super smart. It's that combination of kind of literary and commercial. But what is it? What is the qualitative aspects of Caroline's delivery that people absolutely love? And I think it's because you're just so convinced about, it's not just that the characters and the acts, it's not about that. It's just fantastic storytelling. It's just like, wow, it's like that. It's like when you're on a long car journey. I mean, who goes on long car journeys with strangers? That sounds really weird. But if you were on a long car journey, there was a stranger and someone talked to you and you just felt like, my God, that's interesting. That's interesting. You just got hooked.
You said something to me when I first sent one of my, God knows when, emails. Hi, I'm Daniela, I'm a narrator. And you asked me, what is it you like about thrillers? Because they are kind of standardized and they follow like, you know, a certain, and I want to change my answer. I mean, I kind of did give an answer, but I thought about it today, thinking about having this call with you. And I realized what it is it's changed. Because when I was in America, I was obsessed with Penelope Keith's Agatha Raisin series.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to the entire thing. Not the kind of thing I would ever be interested in, but because she was so amazing in it, I listened to it like, I think 6 times, all like 18 or whatever, on cassettes that long ago. But now I listen to Americans. When I'm over here and I listen to Jeff Harding, Linwood Barclay, Harlan Coben books with American thriller narrator, everyday man makes the cup of coffee on the Mr. Coffee machine, and then his daughter goes missing and his world explodes. But when I listen to that, it brings me to America. It's pure escapism. It's not a book I would sit and read. I'm going to read something that I'm going to learn from, or I'm going to read something, you know, classical fiction. But when I listen to a book, I want to escape. And if I'm in America, I want British. And if I'm here, I want American.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, this has been an interesting kind of like pathway of experience working for an American, well, Macmillan is a German company which predominantly operates in America and also has a British and German wings of it. But the bulk of the work is in America. And the way that I've kind of like navigated through like the cultural piece of publishing here, which is what are people into, like what motivates people to buy things and listen to things, is the issue of immersion. And I think what's really interesting at the moment in the audiobook market and industry is, and I'm spoiled, I mean, as a Brit who raised on great speech radio in the UK, I kind of was like trained, like culturally like trained into, it's just everywhere. People kind of get it. And I'd say that it's something that's definitely emerging here in the States, which is people getting like that kind of immersive experience. And that might sound like I'm sort of, you know, making it sound more complicated. And it isn't. It's just
even the TV. I moved here because of Only Fools and Horses and One Foot in the Grave, basically. It's quality that you never forget.
Yeah, I agree. And so obvious note, it doesn't matter what you're narrating. You've got to try and elevate the quality. Elevate the quality of the writing. That's a note that's going to remember in a producer's head of like, they brought something to that book, and you get extra bonus points if the author's like, my gosh, they really did. They made my book shine so much more. I never imagined. The best note to get from an author is, it doesn't sound like I thought it was going to sound. It sounded even better. You're like, right, that's another one. Right, that's another one, please. Let's go again. So, you know.
Do you get homesick?
Do I get homesick?
Yeah, ever.
No.
Really?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
I just no. I mean,
Even food, you don't miss food, and would you come back here regularly?
I live in New York. I can order, macaroni cheese and something on a bagel at 4 a.m. and with a kind of bubble tea with anchovies sprinkled on top. I don't know. It's just anything here. It's ridiculous. So I don't know. No, there's yes and no. There's things I miss. I miss my friends. I miss my family. Yeah. But no. I came here with that, and this is the cliche. I came here with the sense of that American dream thing. I'm just going to keep moving forward.
I love that. So, where did you meet your wife?
Where did I meet my wife?
If it's not too personal, obviously.
It's not too personal. I think I've told the story before. I had an apartment in the UK. It was a flat share, an apartment share, and one afternoon many years ago, a girl from Liverpool came round. A girl called Sarah.
Oh, that's a great accent.
With her best friend. And Sarah was new to London. Her best friend was a recent graduate. And Sarah had a look around the apartment, and me and the best friend sat for an hour in the living room and talked about everything and whatever. And I didn't offer Sarah the room in the apartment, but I asked her best friend out on a date. And that best friend is now my wife.
Is she still friends with Sarah after that?
They still joke about her. They still joke about. I recently had a significant birthday in my life, a milestone birthday in my life, and it was raised. It was somebody had found the original text or like email that was sent of like, do you remember this? This person wants to go on a date with you, like cheeky whatever. So that was printed and put inside a birthday card to me. So there you go. You
do know that every single one of us, whether we're romance narrators or not, have done enough of the romance books to be sitting here going, oh.
I tell the story. I'm happy people to know the story. I think people say it's like a romantic story. I think
it is like, very romantic.
I'm going to, because it was storytelling, and this has got nothing to do with audiobooks, but let me share another romantic story. Maybe it's in the genes.
Yes,
my father was a sailor.
Uh-huh.
So he was in the Navy, and he met my mother. My mother was 16. My father was 22. So he was on tour of South Pacific, and he met my mother in Auckland. She was in high school, and they met.
He was Irish, right?
Yeah.
Irish accent.
No, he doesn't. No, he's okay. So he's Anglo-Irish. Okay. So he's those. Yeah. So anyway, he meets her at some kind of very kind of like, I don't know, New Zealand's a funny place. It's like Britain in the 1950s. Everything's kind of sort of like from the past times. Some kind of organized event, very formal, whatever. And he's the sailor in his uniform, and she's there. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, off he goes, continues his tour, continues his career, ends up living in Australia. He worked as a mining engineer years later, about 6 years later.
So wait, you glossed over the good part. So he met her. Did he go on a date with her? Was it like love at first sight?
He just met her, and he really liked her.
Oh, okay.
He really liked her. That's what you need to know. Okay. So off he goes, continues his tour. He's based in South Pacific, ends up, as we would say, demobs out of the Navy, ends up working in Australia as a mining engineer. Okay, there you go. Takes a journey back to New Zealand. Yeah, and he's in Auckland, and he's listening to local radio. Listens to local radio, and it's one of those call-ins. Call in about your crazy pet stories. Someone calls in and says, "Oh, hello, I've got this best friend of mine. They've got a tortoise that if you put it on its back, it can flip itself onto its feet." And he's like, "That's a funny story. Hang on a minute. All those years ago, I met those two girls and one of them told me the story about a tortoise that could flip itself back on its feet." So he rang the radio station, and the radio station like, "Yeah, that was a woman called Christine rang in." And again, privacy phone numbers, different times. Okay. Right. Do you want Christine's number? That's my auntie Christine now. And no joke, my dad rang Christine, who said, "Yeah, I'll try and do a Kiwi accent. So yeah, Pam's at uni now. She's at university. She's down in Wellington. Yeah, but she's going to come up next week for a party. Do you want to?" Oh,
that's so romantic.
And told Pam, walked down the harbour, and there was my dad, full uniform, Waiting
And
for my
I'm
mum.
thinking dual POV. I'm thinking Pam, in the meantime, has been writing full journal pages for like however many years he's been gone. Oh my God, the love of my life. I could see our eyes met across a crowded room. Now, where is he? I'm sure he's thinking of me.
And no joke. And no joke. They met and she couldn't believe it. And they were married 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later.
2 weeks later.
See, that's meant to be.
There you go.
That's meant to be. I love that.
There's a nice romance story. I'm gonna write that into something one day. And
Are you
stories.
Are you going to write a book? Because seriously, with your career, have you ever considered writing a book about your life?
No.
Seriously.
No one wants to know about me.
Everyone
Seriously.
wants to know. You've worked for all the major, you've worked for companies at times that history was turning. I remember the 911 story and Rich's podcast, and you worked for the BBC. The BBC alone would be a fascinating book. I mean,
I'm very mindful, as I work for a publishing house. I often quote Christopher Hitchens, the great and now past journalist Christopher Hitchens, who was phenomenal, a man of a certain era and age. But everybody, to quote Christopher Hitchens, everybody's got a book in them. Just in most cases, it's not a very good one. So
I think this one would be good. I think it'd be interesting. The reason I think it'd be interesting is it's about things that wouldn't normally interest me, and listening, no offense, obviously, but just things that I wouldn't normally pick up or, to read or listen to. But working for the publishing houses, working for BBC. And when I heard you talking to Rich about it, I found myself wanting to hear more. So that's what I think would make an interesting book if it's the story is enough to hold its own.
Well, you never know. You never know. When I have some downtime, I might write it down.
Or when you retire.
I'm quite happy to work with the creations of our many fantastic authors at Macmillan Audio. So,
yes. Okay, so what are your thoughts on authenticity? Because I'm not just necessarily audiobook narrators. I'm navigating the world. I know America is much more so than the UK, and I'm protected from it in the UK, but maybe not so much with this whole online world. The whole, you don't want to say things to offend people, but now what you say does it, like the whole politics thing, because I never paid attention to politics until the last few years, but it feels like society's changing and the rules are changing. And how do you navigate it? Because I think people flounder in the digital world. I think everyone's floundering over the last 2 years. Everything's.
Yeah, where to start? That's a big old question.
Yeah.
Fair question. Authenticity.
Yeah, I'm sure we can address it in a nutshell.
Yeah, the internet, what to say without sounding like I'm kind of pontificating and sort of, this is just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, but okay. I love that. That's the whole point.
The internet is clearly a machine that works more efficiently when it finds points of difference. It's just very obvious that the algorithms that drive the connectedness, I'm a student of politics and philosophy, and the fact that we're living in societies where hate speech is commonplace and difficult to address. And I'm thinking about there's some very interesting stories in the UK at the moment. Female politicians just roundly attacked on social media and just debased, and just you think, look, when has there not been a men's club in politics or society? Whatever. Let's not talk about the patriarchy, but it's challenging best of times. But that single sort of point in the UK is because of internet culture. And so how do you be authentic in internet culture? Well, I suppose the challenge of authenticity is what are definitions of authenticity? What's the actual definition of it? And I think it's good that we live in a society where you can, to a degree, be yourself. And publishing has a lot to answer for in representing and identifying with people who have been underrepresented. It's the major and probably primary task of the publishing world right now, of recognizing that there are many voices that it has not done a good enough job of representing. And so it's doing that.
I think people on an individual basis are genuinely from the heart in this industry. I love that people in this industry are very careful. I do love that because I do love that. I get annoyed at some of the box ticking. I do, just because I'm the age I am. And sometimes I get all the, the words, narcissist, gaslighting, trigger, all the catchphrases now. Authenticity is one of them. All the catchphrases, you hear them so much, you start going, oh God, really, can we just not talk straight out? But I think it's interesting that the narrators that I know, more often than not, I've heard them say things like, somebody's approached me with this book and I feel worried that maybe I wouldn't be the best person. And I heard that before it became a thing to do. And that makes me really proud of the people I work with.
Yeah, I would say the audiobook community, narrating community, can definitely pat itself on the back for being a long way ahead.
For the right reasons, not because it's a cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah, and I think there's all sorts of reasons why it's like that. But no, definitely, I think the discussion in the main in the audiobook space is healthy. It's a discussion. It's actually a discussion.
Yeah.
And it's in parallel with, again, I don't want to sort of present, so I saw an article recently which described publishing, the genteel, sedate world of publishing. Well, it is sort of genteel and sedate to a degree. It can also be really people have huge rows about things. Publishing houses can be massively competitive and try and get at each other for taking books off each other. It can be hugely competitive. I would say on the authenticity debate and the identity debate, representation debate, publishing is, and I might be saying very corporate here, and I'm waving the flag for the ivory tower and all of that, but genuinely, as I've seen very different behaviors in the television and video space, other kinds of companies in the US, publishing has a lot of work to do, but it's definitely going in the right direction. And I think I've used this word often with the producers that I've hired and I work with. Don't be surprised. Audiobooks are a remarkable barometer of change in publishing. And that I think audiobooks have done a lot more of the authenticity and representation conversations, and frankly, let's employ genuine diversity than other parts of the business. So I think
because we're reflecting the world's stories I always go straight for the cheesy explanation, but I do believe them.
It's not cheesy. It's not cheesy. It's important, and I think again, I'm trying to keep this service orientated and useful for actors.
Yeah.
Authors worry about this. Authors worry. Am I writing something which can I really represent these voices? Can I really tell these stories? Am I good enough to do this? This is why we have sensitivity readers. We have sensitivity listeners.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What's a sensitivity listener?
It's the same as a sensitivity reader.
But I don't understand. Are they like a beta reader, but with an eye to make sure that it's not offensive to anyone, or?
Well, it's not issues of offense. It can be any number of things that you feel are flagged as, has that been authentically represented? Wow. Has that been? I mean, the truth is, by the time it's come to recording, it's too late for the book. I mean, it's been written. Yeah. So, but I mean, I give some working examples. I produced a book which was a book about, and this is where I might need, if I'm using the wrong terms, but it was Native American and First Nation history, written by two white men in their 50s from the Midwest. Okay, so, and they were aware of okay, and the book was authenticity read, and it's the bloody history of the West, and the outcomes are pretty grim, and we know who quote lost, and there was a gruesome outcome. for the first people of this continent. But then it was sensitivity listened to because it was narrated by a white male narrator, because the voice, the voice of the historian was as I was presented. And they also were like, I just wondered, like, am I getting this right? And it was very effective. It was like, yeah, we did it recently for a book, a multicast, predominantly cast. It was the stories of Black women working in the media. And it's just a book, we couldn't have the original voices narrate it. And the predominant narrator was a white woman of a similar experience. And like, how do we do this? And it was listened to, sensitively listened. And they're like, yeah, like, you didn't mimic, you didn't, I'm confident that you got it right. It's fundamentally subjective, but it's about boundaries, and it's about, another word, it's a buzzword, but I think it's the right word. It is about intentionality, like your intentions were good.
Yeah.
Intentions were right.
I love this. This is good, because I was more jaded than I realized I was, but I didn't know that that was a process that took place in that way. And you telling me the one about the white men writing and the listener listening and saying, yes, this was what it was, and the decision going that way, that really, really, that's impressive. That really makes me feel, it changes my view and my feeling about what goes on, whereas I had no idea, but it just may be a bit cynical in this day and age about people ticking every box just to say they're doing the right thing. But the fact that somebody's taking that much care and effort into each one and looking at each as an individual situation.
And this is publishing. I mean, this is the reality of publishing, but the vast majority of it, they take so long to write. And publishing is a spread betting business. Yeah, you place your bets and then you wait 2 years. Yeah. Given a manuscript and you're like, cross your fingers, I hope this is going to work. And it's given time to percolate. There's a slight, and again, personal view, there is a slight sort of academic like sheen in publishing of people like, okay, people have kind of got like, is that right? There's plenty of time to get things right. And it's the sort of the gentle art of managing, like, is this right? Is this going to work? And it's just, I hate to refer to publishing and books and audiobooks as content, but it's slow cooked content.
But see, I assume that, but I love that there's a human voice listening, because I work, and now I have to realize working 10 years for the oil industry probably didn't set me up to imagine a bunch of people, in publishing, listening very carefully for the right reasons. In my head, I was thinking, because you work in an industry like that, you're thinking, well, it's all bottom line, it's all money. You become a bit cynical, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this might sound sort of blasé, or but publishing, my experience of publishing is different from broadcasting, and that publishing, it is a people business. It really is. It's the slow.
I never realized that. I love that. I love that there's
slow. Yeah, it's the slow development of long-term value. That's what it's about. It's just like, build up the skills and stamina of our writers, keep them writing, keep them focused, and slowly build up. It's a slow turning wheel. It's not like broadcasting, which is like crank, and tie as much advertising revenue to as you want. That's not a criticism. That's just another business. That's not the publishing business. It doesn't work that way.
Every one of us has writers we love, because even the ones that start with publishers, or that are working mostly with publishers now, we all started off working with indie writers, most of us. And all of us, you say, oh, this is for writers, it's not for narrators. We think we are writers. We're like best friends with writers. They're on our Facebook. They're like because we're the same people in different ways. We have the same struggles.
And I would say an experience which, I talk to authors, I talk to their agents, I talk to obviously tons of actors. Acting, writing, it can be a very lonely place, very insular, and you can feel isolated. And I think there's just definitely an affinity between the two sides. And
we love our writers.
And many writers, they're just so happy to be published. It's very, very hard to be published by a big house. It's very, very hard to get there. And I understand the responsibility and the power that gives big publishers. But it's hard because it's really, really expensive to develop authors that will work. And the fantastic thing about our company is that there are books that we publish, produce, which we know are not about long-term commercial success. I mean, it's nice to break even, but there are also, and this is deep in the culture of Macmillan, there are some books which have to exist. They just have to exist. It's comes straight from the top.
I love that. I'm like loving Macmillan. Okay, and see but that's the other thing, because we've all had our writers that have that book, and they're paying you your straight PFH rate, and you really want it to succeed, and you look at, and the genre is like, how to make daffodils sustainable for the 20th century, and which is a really amazing, and they've like labored over it for 50 years. They've had it edited 20 times. It's a good quality book. And we all have, I think most of us have that experience of working with that writer, where like, you're just hoping, you're trying to help them with marketing. You want it to succeed because it's their dream, and it's a good book, and they've worked hard on it, and it's important, and you want to do the best you can to help them get there. And the fact that Macmillan looks at it that way, I'm a little less cynical after this talk, which is really surprising to me.
It's easy to be cynical. I'm not cynical. I can be skeptical. I'm skeptical about things, but not cynical. I mean, if you're cynical about things, you've lost hope, and don't lose hope.
Yeah, I think I tend to sometimes fall into cynicism sometimes. Oh, yes, Jennifer, I remembered the great question and wrote it down. I forgot to actually let anyone else have a minute with you, so I'm checking to see if there are any questions. I blame the guest. If he wasn't so interesting, I wouldn't have monopolized him. Okay, Lisa Ware, question, who is your favorite superhero and why? Also, what was your favorite book as a kid?
Who is my favorite superhero? Ooh. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to bring it back to a literary reference. Raise your hand if you've read Chabon's Cavalier and Clay. Do you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cavalier and Clay. Okay, fine. So I wouldn't say it's just a superhero. I'm more interested in that particular novel. This is a sort of sideways answer. I mean, I suppose my answer is I don't have a favorite. I'm more interested into why people feel superheroes should exist, and the connection in that novel between people trying to recover from the horrors of the Holocaust and war. Maybe very interested into why people feel, why a community, and particularly New York Jews, felt they needed to create superheroes.
Is that? I want to read that. So yes, that's interesting.
The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. So one of the finest books, I would argue, written in the last 100 years. It's a phenomenal book. Chabon, just incredible.
Okay, I'm gonna, yeah.
Wonderfully written. So, and the second part of the question, sorry, repeat. I
scrolled down too far.
Really sorry. I should have written it down.
No. I should remember it. Literally,
favorite
it was
book as a kid.
Oh, favorite book as a kid.
Oh.
Thank you.
My favorite book as a kid. Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes. Just mischievous, probably culturally utterly unacceptable now. But I kind of grew up in a household where sort of lots of funny, slightly filthy jokes and sort of poking fun at the establishment, poking fun at people in power. I think Roald Dahl, fascinating, and again, Roald Dahl clearly had attitudes which now I think many people would find quite problematic. But I think somebody who imagined a child's view of the world, and about particularly all his books are about children who are without power and about agency, the agency of children. And I think Revolting Rhymes is just hilarious because it puts the kids on top and kills the baddies. And I don't know how many times I've read Revolting Rhymes.
You know what?
In the hundreds.
I feel kind of, because whenever somebody brings that question up, I'm remembering my parents should have guarded the bookshelf, because when I was a little girl, I was reading The Marquis de Sade, The Manson Family, and Wuthering Heights. My parents did not put some of the books up high enough, I think. But the superhero thing is fascinating to me, because time travel and Twilight Zone, the idea of getting to redo your life, I love that kind of stuff. And I have a suspicion it's because I'm a middle-aged person that wouldn't mind redoing my life in a nice way. Like the idea, like Johnny Heller did the Sean Inman, one of the Sean Inman time travel books. And I don't think I slept until the book was done, because he was so good. I just loved it so much. And it's the idea, and Stephen King does one, 1611 or something. It's a date. The book is named after the date. It's one of my favorite audiobooks, really long. And again, it's not the most intellectual, life-changing book, but he goes back and tries to change time. And I love the thought of what would you do if you...
I mean, I think something I often talk to producers about, I often talk about like the Spike Lee method. It's like, what is Spike Lee doing? He's educating through popular entertainment. You might not like Spike Lee films.
Right.
But his education through popular entertainment. And that's actually, there are some books that we work on, and it's like, it's not the smartest book in the world, but it's very accessible. The tone is set right. This is education through popular entertainment. And we're backing this book, we're spending the money on it, and this is what we're targeting. This is the audience that we're looking for. Again,
sometimes things are popular for, because I remember in university, I was quite bad that way. I loved feeling like the most intellectual person in the room, but I got really annoyed and would say something inappropriate all the time, because I want to have fun. I grew up with a fun father. Like, what adventure are you going to have next? What are you going to do next? So when I get in atmospheres where people are taking things very seriously and it's the weight of the world, you want to have fun. You know what I mean? So sometimes I think, yes, you can do all the most important, life-changing books on earth, but like, let's throw a couple of murders in there. Let's open with blood.
Sure. But it does that, absolutely. Just what to say to that? I don't know.
Jennifer, murder equals fun. Yep. But something, I think popular culture is popular for a reason. You might as well understand it.
Well, this is another reason why I like working in books and audiobooks, is that I don't use the word popular culture. I don't popular cultures. There's a plurality of cultures now. That's I think the disruption that we're all living through at the moment. This idea that you can. That's what I love. I mean, I love the thing about working in publishing is eclecticism. I talked to my producers about the Spotify effect. I remember when Spotify first launched, and it was like, all this music available. Like, no one's going to listen. Like, no one's going to listen to all the music. It's like, nah. I know. I mean, I know the head of data analytics at Spotify. Like, Spotify has proven that humans are curious about anything and everything.
Yep.
Eclecticism has become a thing. And I think audiobooks are beginning to move into a phase of eclecticism. And
I love that.
And I think that's important. And publishers are definitely beginning to poke around that, like, oh, that's interesting. You like sort of commercial thrillers, but then you want to read some kind of sort of philosophy or books about artists. Like, okay. And you can observe these patterns. And audiobooks, again, this barometer.
But if you keep going to what you love, like on a granular level, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to do this genre, and you've got 2 days off, and maybe pick up a book that intrigues you that might be different and try it out, a public domain book. You might be really good at that genre. You know what I mean? And you become better and better and better and just follow what you love. Somebody was telling me the other day about the business, about audiobooks and the whole, I'm definitely don't want to get into the whole AI thing, but the whole business thing and don't just be a narrator. And my only response was, it was when I first became a freelance audiobook narrator, coming from a steady income and being comfortable. And I've always acted on the side and worked my entire life right? So I've never, ever been on a limb. I didn't understand what freelance meant. I was like, but where's the money coming from? And the shift is, it doesn't matter where the money's coming from. It matters how strong I am, that I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to find a way, and I'm going to develop this talent and that talent, and I do videos and I like this. Follow your curiosity
Yeah,
to where it
absolutely. And I would say,
leads.
yeah, absolutely. And there is that opportunity in audiobook narration of, you can be curious about, and I think, like genres, and I think that's something, if you know, in your communications with production houses and producers, I think it helps to present yourself as a curious mind of just like, I want to bring this to this genre, I can bring this to this genre. And it doesn't always work for every project. There are some things like, look, I just need this, just give me that. I'm not expecting anyone. It's like, fine, just know, obvious as it sounds, but know what you're dealing with, know what you're working with.
Yeah.
So
be professional.
We hear plenty. I mean, we hear plenty of auditions and demos from people who just massively overcook. They've massively overthought what they think this genre should be. So it's like, just ease off. I mean, it's like Johnny Heller's great note, I won't use this curse word, but slow that down and like stop going to 11. Let's start at 5 or 6. Like there's a time and a space.
And Johnny says that about the different tones and genres as well. Johnny always says it doesn't matter. You pick up the book and you do justice to the book. I'm probably misquoting him, but that's what I got from him.
Yeah, I think that's a really important, like, again, conscious choices. We're always looking for narrators who are making conscious choices about what they're narrating, and this is subjective, it's qualitative, it's very, very subtle, but it's picked up in audition review, it's picked up also in market review when you put books to sell, and you hear this from authors like, I don't think they understood my book. I don't think, like, it's a scary note to get. You're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, and that's the goal, to make them cry at their own book or understand. Like, and Lisa says the characters don't know it's a horror. That's what Johnny always says, and that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's I suppose another way of applying the word of intentionality, like what your intentions for the book. Again, that's the sign of an audiobook narrator that has thought about what they're doing and has practiced enough, or asked the right questions to be like, in this part of the book, just saying, like, what were you getting at? I think I'm a big Michael Connelly fan, and I've listened and read all of the Bosch books, all of the Lincoln Lawyers, all of the Jack McAvoy books. I love them, and why they're so good in the narrations are the many different narrators. I mean, Titus Welliver, who's in the Amazon series, has narrated most, doing now backlist Bosch books. The thing by why it works is because those audiobooks, they deliver the righteous rage of the avenging angel. That's what you want. That people buy these books and read them. You know what's going to happen. He's going to get the bad guy. It's always the same. It doesn't
you always
matter
know what's going to happen.
But it's the justice moment. We crave a sense of, like, justice, and that it's delivered in the narration. Just that determination to carry the listener with them and be like, I'm going to deliver that justice moment. It's very satisfying.
You're making me, because I just got a book that I didn't think I was going to get. I don't know why I didn't think I was going to get it, but I just forgot about it. And it turns out I got it. And I looked at the opening before I got the recordable one. They sent me the prep, and the dedication was to Daniela, an excellent daughter. And Daniela spelled my way. And I told my friend, I'm not saying what the book was. I said, oh my God, I said, it's karma. I meant to have this book because I was so excited about this book. And she's like, oh, what is it? Like self-help, or, about the world? Is it a classic? No, it's about an axe murderer, but it's got a really great character. So, like, you've made me now, like, righteous. I'm going to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And note, subtlety. Yes. Subtlety is the key.
I do know subtlety, just not.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, every couple of weeks, the production team here, we review all of the inquiries made to Macmillan Audio. People write to us, pitch themselves, send their demos, and we listen to them. We kind of have, like, kind of listening panel, and it's always that the vast majority like pretty good. Like they're trying. It's the ones where there's the collective kind of sucking of teeth of like wow, they have really cranked that. And because I think they've misunderstood that. Mainly it's happened because they've misunderstood the text.
Yeah.
They have read through a scene and have thought it's a scene where a guy stabs somebody. So everything is up at sort of like 11, and it's just constant like bang, bang, bang. You're just like, you're going to make the listeners' ears bleed.
Yeah, no, this one isn't, and this one isn't even a modern. I have to play it for the time as well. So unfortunately, it has to be subtle. But yeah, definitely. Guy, what a wonderful, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you had time to meet with us after your vacation. It was lovely talking to you. I've learned.
Absolute pleasure. Do I do my bit where who do you email if you want to contact me?
I have one final question for you that we're going to end the call with, and then what happens is any contact or anything you want to add, we put in the about section in the video on YouTube, because most of the listeners are watching the video. Definitely, and you're welcome to join the Narrator's Cup of Joe if you'd like as well. So I'll send you an invitation on Facebook, but we're not going to let you off this easily. Here's the question.
Okay.
People on YouTube will be watching this in the next 60 or so years. I think I'm going to skip capsule, Kim, because I'm getting my tongue twisted around it every single time. And if you ever can't show up, I won't remember the word. So we were doing a thing with a time capsule, but forget that. So if you had final words, if there was one thing you wanted to be remembered by in the next 60 years for YouTube people that will be logging on watching this video in like the next generations, what would you like to leave them with? Words of wisdom, a funny joke, a warning, something to remember you by. What in all your life, what would you like to leave people with?
Interesting. I tried my best. And you can always add more onions to things.
Oh, more onions, you think? Okay, I like that.
There you go.
That's a good one.
I'll let you all figure that one out.
I'll head the video. You can always add more onions.
Add more onions to things.
Thank you so much, Guy. And
you're very welcome.
Just at the end of the call, for people here, would you like them to reach out to you, email you at Macmillan?
Absolutely, they're welcome to contact me at narrators@macmillan.com. It's actually a more effective way of contacting Macmillan, because that email goes to many more people than just a one-to-one, and it'll be read collectively by the production team here, and it's got much more chance.
But then how do you word that email if you're sending it to a group email? Hi, everyone.
Hello, Macmillan Audio.
Okay, so because you're always told, find the name of the person. You don't want to sound like you're just, see the rules, Guy, the endless rules.
Rules. Yeah.
Learn the rules and then learn when to break them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Except not for Macmillan, obviously. Thank you so much, Guy.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. Great to see you.
Thank you. And thank you to the beautiful studio audience as always. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye, folks. Bye.